Jacques Chirac, the former president of France, once freely acknowledged that France would struggle to maintain its economic dominance without Africa. In Burkina Faso, a reality TV program that was aired by Canal Plus has been cancelled. The French broadcaster is called Canal Plus. Because they believe it is compromising the nation's principles, they have cancelled a certain show and no longer want it to air in the nation. We will get right to the point. The nation is Burkina Faso. In Burkina Faso, a reality TV program that was aired by Canal Plus has been cancelled. Therefore, the Burkinabe Authority has asked that this show be taken off the air, since a seduction game is the subject of the show. In the show's seduction game, young women undermined women's dignity in order to devalue them. The focus of the show now is women's desire to find a man. I believe the phrase is "Qui veut épouser mon fils?", which translates to "Who wants to marry my son?". In other words, you can comprehend what's going on, and who wants to marry my kid? These are unmarried women competing for a man's attention. Not only a man is now involved, but also the man's mother. In order to win over the man and his mother, the women must do everything in their power. They would thus stop at nothing to win over the man and his mother, because it's a show, and everyone wants to win, even if it's not for the proper reasons. As a result, it appears to be diminishing women and making them into something they are not. According to the Burkina Faso administration, this will no longer exist. Furthermore, this is not the first instance. They have previously cancelled another show. The Bachelor was the name of that program. You must be aware of The Bachelor. The show is Western. They simply thought, these little Africans like to imitate us. Thus, let's go and present our shows in an African style. What about that? And because Africans adore it, they always want to emulate the conquerors in order to become like them. The majority of these French-speaking nations in Western Africa strive to sound as French as possible. The evidence is in the pudding. Yes, they will think you're not very smart if you don't sound like a French man. Thus, the administration declares that we will not tolerate this. Take me for a cheap price kind of entertainment that undermines women and feels like prostitution. We will not put up with this. They have requested that this particular show be cancelled by the French TV station. Is this correct or incorrect now? Given that some claim Ibrahim Traoré is gradually becoming into a tyrant, is this a type of dictatorship? Why do you want to manage other people's lives in that manner now? What's the point of telling people what they can and cannot see on television? What makes that significant? Why is that your responsibility? Why don't you handle the government and let people choose what TV shows they want to watch? Can a government declare that some people do not wish to see this? I don't want these kinds of circumstances to consume my kids' attention. This isn't the first time, though. Let's examine Burkina Faso's recent actions. France has suffered severe financial losses since being expelled from Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. Air France was one of the biggest victims, losing almost 65 million euros after being prohibited from operating in these three nations. Air France profited greatly from the area for years, seemingly without any competition. The airline made almost 500 million CFA francs a day just from flights to and from Mali. Every day, Niger and Burkina Faso contributed an additional 430 million and 390 million CFA francs, respectively. That's more than 2 million euros a day, all from a single airline. However, when new military regimes took control, things changed. These leaders made it plain that the days of France exploiting its resources and maintaining economic dominance were past. Major French corporations were forced to halt operations. French military were ordered to leave, and France's political hold on these nations was loosened. The effect was felt instantly by Air France, and the French economy as a whole started to suffer as well. France has been working behind the scenes to get back to the Sahel in an attempt to recover, but the new governments aren't giving up. They refuse to return to a system that was exclusively advantageous to France. These African leaders recognize that wealth stolen from the continent was a major factor in France's rise to prominence in the world. They are now making France confront the fact that its power is waning by stopping that flow of funds and resources. This is an indication that an entire system is collapsing, not just a few businesses losing money. After years of dominating the region, France today faces the repercussions as the Sahel region asserts its own rights. It can no longer rely on its former colonies for economic prosperity. France seemed to be a major economic force for a while. Behind the scenes, however, a large portion of that riches was derived from resources it did not truly possess. Despite its limited supply of gold, uranium, and other important minerals, France was still able to sell them in enormous quantities. Why? Africa was the source of those resources. In its old colonies, France controlled the mines and commercial routes, keeping the majority of the profits while giving African nations relatively little. They have also banned judicial wigs from the colonial era. You recall the blonde-looking wigs that many justice-related personnel wore. The reason Africans wear wigs is unknown to us. You wear that, but why? Why is wearing it necessary for relevance? That's how they make you feel. For you to feel relevant, they want you to be somewhat like them. Else, whatever you say is pointless. You are aware of an effort to foster cultural identity and decolonize the country's legal system. Judges were prohibited by President Traoré from donning colonial-style wigs from France and Britain. Did that have a positive effect? Certain media sources were the next item to be outlawed. The Voice of America and the BBC were among the American and French media outlets that were banned from transmitting in Burkina Faso by the regime of President Traoré. According to reports, these outlets accused the Burkinabe army of abusing civilians, which prompted this action. All right, that's how it sounds to them. However, the truth is that some of these media channels gave terrorists airtime. All right, the nation is battling terrorism. For some reason, these BBCs and Voice of America conducted interviews with terrorists and broadcast them online as the terrorists were defending their actions and describing the evils of the government. Therefore, the government believed that it was not your place to give them a forum for self-expression if you were going to be in our nation permanently and visit frequently. Why is that necessary? Why should you give them a chance to claim that our army is insufficient? Do you support the terrorists, or do you support us? Such as, which television network broadcasts terrorists? Which American television network broadcasts Taliban content? Would the United States of America accept them? They wouldn't be allowed. Now, why do you think you would do it in a country in Africa? Give terrorists a place to express themselves, please. They outlawed these businesses for that reason. However, they subsequently stated that we were prohibited because we had exposed their harmful actions. Burkina Faso outlawed guys who were attracted to other men. Do you understand what I mean? Yes, they made it illegal. Therefore, it is illegal for a man in Burkina Faso to go and like another man. That is not acceptable to them. Do they have the authority to do it now? Is this a dictatorship? Since they're attempting to control what airs on television, should they be stopped? A question mark. This isn't the first time, though. It is practiced in many nations. They are highlighting Burkina Faso. Other nations, such as Saudi Arabia. Don't let males hang around with other men. They won't toss you over the side. If you're interested in another man, they'll put you on the building and throw you over. No one shouts about it. They are not referred to be dictatorships. It's not possible in that nation. Do you know why? That's because they possess all of the world's oil. Because you depend on them, it will not be advantageous for you if you, as America, go to war with them. Burkina Faso is a small African nation, so we must exert pressure on them. Their country is not Saudi Arabia. In several of these nations, let's offer you a straightforward illustration. You and your girlfriend can't hold hands, Dubai. That is not possible. In many countries, such as Qatar, it is illegal to enter a hotel if you are not married to a lady. Not possible. Your marriage certificate must be shown. No one accuses them of being dictatorships or terrorists. Therefore, it's awful for Burkina Faso, but fine for Saudi Arabia and Qatar. He's being called a dictator after all. He is a small-time autocrat. Why, you ask, would you try to restrict who could watch? Let's explain it to you this way. As a result of the terrorist problem, Burkina Faso is not receiving the same level of international funding as it once did. They used to obtain funding from the World Bank and the IMF back when the nation was still under colonial rule. They no longer receive funding from those nations or organizations. Why? Since they do not want Africans to be independent thinkers. They will therefore take all necessary steps to put them down. Burkina Faso is now defending itself. Is now the appropriate moment to divert everyone's attention by showing young men being wooed by women and such? Isn't this the proper time? Why don't you create programs that inspire patriotism and nationalism? Why don't you create programs that inspire young guys to develop technologies, research, and drones that are essential to the country and provide them with $100,000? What about that? Why do you feel the need to advertise recreation and leisure items that are of no service to the nation? Is Burkina Faso currently in a situation where they require all of that entertainment? Perhaps they believe that now is the right moment to focus young people on the development of their nation. China doesn't tolerate many things. You cannot preach Christianity in China with your Bible. That is not possible. China is not banned for any reason. Many books are prohibited from entering China. Why? Due to China's desire to govern itself in a Chinese manner. Should you suddenly declare that this man is a tyrant because he believes that our nation needs to invest in young people who wish to pursue careers in biology, science, and engineering? We need to invest in those who can truly have a positive impact on our nation. Why is it that everyone must resemble Europeans? Why is that required? Let's look at another case. There is a nation called Congo, or DRC. You've probably heard about this nation. There are a lot of bad things and a lot of people that are depressed in this country. Even while there is conflict in the east of the Congo every single day, concerts are held on the west side of the country every single day, making it extremely difficult to determine whether a country is at war or is performing. Is there a conflict, or is the nation at peace? Isn't that perplexing to young people, in your opinion? I mean, the nation is in need of people. They gripe about the army's lack of strength. Although there are over 100 million people living in the nation, there are fewer than 100,000 soldiers in the army. How would you describe that? A nation like this ought to frighten everyone. They should frighten every neighbor. They don't frighten any of them. They are not respected. Because music is what they do. Music, music, music. Burkina Faso, however, is against that. The president is not a dictator because of this. Tell us what you think about this. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Thank you.